Welcome everyone back to another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son George. I was my mother's caregiver after she was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Unfortunately, she passed on 1/1/2020, but we started together for Sharon.com in her memory. Today's guest is somebody who I always say this a lot, but he actually means the world to me personally. He's been a friend and somebody I look up to. Just want to welcome you, Jim. You're, in my opinion, a hero to so many, and it's an honor to have you because we have so many important things to discuss and exciting, but at the same time, we kind of can relate. And you've been a shining light in my life because you've been really there for me, and I'll try and talk a little bit about the in memory section that I really wanted to reach out to those people who lost a loved one due to Parkinson's, as I don't feel, in my opinion, there's enough for us. And I do feel we're a family in the fight, but even more so because we've kind of gone through some somewhat similar things due to this disease. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, George, so much. I'll second exactly what you said in that I think until there's a cure, the most important thing that we can provide is community. You do an amazing job of that. You're an amazing example of that, and that's kind of what I hope to provide to everybody who's affected by Parkinson's. So thank you.
No, I appreciate it. And I'm usually, I love that we're not live, but we are, we go live, and this is the fun part. I would, if I had a drum roll, I'd do it right now, but I want to announce everyone to this is Jim's, it's not that they can ever get it on the screen, but this is Jim's new book. And I have the honor to have a copy already. So I really want to change up the script today, even though there is no script, and talk right about that first. And again, if anyone is out there, please share this. We don't do any of this for anything except we want to be able to, number one, make sure you know you're never alone, everyone watching and sharing. And number two, support you in any way we can. So maybe we can try and change it up again, Jim. And if you could tell us, what inspired you to write a book or get into I should have introduced you as author, Jim. And maybe, a little bit about the book. I had a nice opportunity to review it and look at it. I like that it's kind of regular English, even my book, some of it I had to send to an editor. I didn't want it to be like my PhD because no one would read that. But this is, I like that it is. It looks like it's kind of just from the heart. So maybe you could again touch a little bit on it, about it. And then after that, we'll kind of get back to our regular scheduled program.
Terrific. Well, I mean, the one thing that you and I both have in common is we both lost our mother. And on a second, mine is a slightly different situation than yours in that mine had multiple diseases, glioblastoma, MS, and what got me into this, been a trainer for 40 years, but what got me into this, as far as helping people with Parkinson's, is that absolutely everything I tried to help her with failed miserably. She had progressive lapsing MS, which meant that the harder she worked, the more she overheated her system. The more things that she would do to work hard, eventually what's going to happen is her symptoms are going to get worse, and that becomes her new normal. So the more and more I researched, the more I found that what I'm an expert at in fitness and hard work was going to fail and not help her. What I found was that there's one neurological condition that responds amazingly to it, and that's Parkinson's. And so for the last 8 years, I've been helping people with Parkinson fitness therapy, Parkinson boxing. And I realized that the reason that I do this is because there's a real strong chance my 60-year-old, my 70-year-olds, my 80-year-olds, that they're not going to be around to see the cure. So until we have a cure, you and I are the cure. Our neighbors are the cure. Their caregivers are the cure. And that is community. That is reaching out. That is making a difference. Problem is, I don't know if you've experienced this, George, when it comes to Parkinson's, it's unique. There's a number of people who don't feel really comfortable with Parkinson's, whether it be someone's festering steps, whether it be the frozen face, whether the lack of expression. I had somebody who came into class yesterday who was drooling terribly. And people who, when you bring up Parkinson's, it's like, oh, that's a terrible condition. That's a terrible diagnosis. And I watch as they change the subject. And I stop and wonder, would they change the subject if they truly understood? And the way that you get somebody to truly understand is to stop and ask, what if it were me? What if it were my loved one? What if it were my spouse? What if it were my parent? What if it were my brother? And that's exactly what the book is about. It's actually, from what I can tell, it's the first book of its kind, which is that it's a persuasive and it's a conversation that asks you to stop and realize that Parkinson's could be in you right now. It could be in me right now. George, it could be in you. It's unpredictable, it's unpreventable, it's uncurable, but it is unbelievably valuable, because if we actually all lived like we had Parkinson's inside of us right now, waiting for its chance to come out, if we lived like that, then actually it's the healthiest way to live. And that's all scientifically backed research. So I've been working, this book I've been working on for over a year. But in the last 8 years of working with people with Parkinson's, I found that there are a number of things that are most important to them. I call them the vowels of Parkinson's, the A, E, the I, O, and the U. And the A is that they just ask people to acknowledge the reality of Parkinson's and to accept it. And I ask them to do one more thing. I ask them to anticipate it. If you read the book, you saw the first couple of pages. There was a quote in there from the greatest female fighter of all time, Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
And she made a pretty brief to the point case that said, listen, when you're going to get knocked out in life is when you don't see something coming. I learned my boxing, my fitness therapy boxing for Parkinson's from Rocksteady. And there's a 3-time, female world champion who helped design that program for Rocksteady. You want to know something fast? Watch her jab. If you blink, you'll miss it. It was the most amazing thing. If I wasn't watching, I wouldn't have seen it coming. That's what Parkinson's is. Nobody sees it coming. Okay. All of my Parkinson's clients, they want empathy, not sympathy. I don't know, about your mom, but absolutely everybody with Parkinson's that I've worked with and spoken to says they want understanding. They want empathy. They're not looking for anybody to feel sorry for them in any way, shape, or form. And when I mention this, everybody with Parkinson's just starts to nod their head. It's it's a reflex situation. But we can acknowledge and we can give empathy and we can have understanding. But if we don't do anything, if we just stay on the sidelines, then it keeps a distance and a wall between us and people with Parkinson's. And that's getting involved. The other thing is, you probably noticed with your mom, Parkinson's, I don't know. I understand your mom had a similar situation as far as dementia. But with Parkinson's, isn't it amazing how it steals things that we take for granted? Like not swinging your arms, like the sense of smell, the sense of taste, swallowing. All these things are things that we can voluntarily control, but Parkinson's, if we take something for granted, Parkinson's goes, I'll take that. You're not using it. And the best way to live to help prolong and prevent Parkinson's from coming onto somebody is to take full advantage of all of those things. Okay. And then the last thing is understanding that with Parkinson's, understanding the difference between life and death. Parkinson's is not a death sentence. Unfortunately, it's a life sentence. But that doesn't mean, see, I don't think people always like to face the difficulties of if something was a death sentence. But if I injured my leg and I accidentally, it was a terrible thing and I had to have my foot amputated, that would be a life sentence. I would now be the rest of my life without the foot that I was born with. But it's not a death sentence. Don't treat me like that. That's what I have found with all of the people that I've worked with Parkinson's. And that's why I wrote the book, so that the rest of the world can take the concept of Parkinson's in and embrace it. And that's how they start building community. And that's how they stop distancing themselves from the reality of it.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I think that's so incredible and important. I didn't really know a lot about this. The knowledge I gained the last 4 or 5 years. I always tell everyone September 20th would have been my mother's birthday. So that's this weekend. So it's going to be a tough one. I don't think she ever met anyone with Parkinson's. And we were so in the moment and dealing with doctors and mess. And like you said, a lot of things you said happened to us where kind of had a checklist of things you try, but each time you kind of they didn't work out. And every time you failed on one, you hope the next one. I mean, I even have a funny story in my book about medical marijuana. I'm a cop, so that was a whole disaster where I thought it was like Mission Impossible movie going into the store and just asking about it. But I would
Yeah.
have done, anything like you for your mom. So I think again, everyone needs to pick this up. Actually, at this moment, I want to also thank you for not just today, but so many. It's going to be years of knowing each other. If everyone has time, go to togetherbysharon.com, click interviews, and you'll see much more in depth with Jim. And also, I want to talk a little about REBOPS, of course, next. But you can see a lot more about his biography, some of his work, and a lot of important information that we won't have the time, but is so, so important. And also how to reach him. If you go to rebops.org, which actually, since we are doing this, I'll try and share that too. Also, if you can go to the website, if you see, I'm not, you'll probably let us know if you can find it elsewhere. Also, if you afterwards, after the show, if you send me a photo, I would like to add it to our books around the world for Parkinson. So it'll be, you can actually order it right from the website. But this is the book, Trustable-Trainer.com. And you can see the beautiful artwork by Jim. And 1 second, this is again why I love that we're live, or not live. And then here is the website again. Can you tell us a little bit about REBOPS? I know you kind of touched on exercise, but I'll be scrolling as you, tell us a little bit more on it. How can people get involved and support you too?
Thank you, George. Well, REBOPS I chose for two reasons. One, because it sounds like the name of a very famous shoe manufacturer, and I did that on purpose. But REBOPS stands for Rockford Exercise Boxing, Overcoming Parkinson's Symptoms. Okay. And the amazing thing about using exercise boxing is that, again, we talked before about the fact that when it comes to Parkinson's will take for granted or take from you whatever you take for granted. We don't think about swinging our arms and people lose that. We don't think about the distance of our steps and people lose that. We don't think about swallowing. We don't think about all of these things. The amazing thing about boxing is that boxing has been shown to be the most effective method when it comes to exercise fitness at preventing falls, at fall prevention. And absolutely, that is a to the heart fear of anyone who has Parkinson's and their loved ones and their caregivers. Boxing is amazing at it. But the thing about boxing is that there are a limitless number of striking and hit and punch combinations that can be done, so that when a program's properly designed for somebody with Parkinson's, they can never, ever get used to it. And if they can't get used to it, they can't get lazy at it. They can't take it for granted. And that makes it difficult for Parkinson's to take it from them. I've got a punching target that I use in class that has not only numbers on it, but it also has letters and it also has mathematic symbols. And every single time they come into class, they don't know what they're going to get. Today they got to or this week they get to spell out the word deadbeat. Last week, they got to actually come up with all the potential mathematical ways of coming up with the equation, the total sum of 48. They use multiplication signs, they use pluses, minuses. So we're challenging their brain and challenging their body all at the same time. That's the one thing I've always insisted on is doing differently. It's not an easy program, but it is a program that's easy to start and easy to stay with. If it's too easy, then Parkinson's eventually says, you're not using that. I got it. So that's the big deal behind what we do differently at REBOPS. But what matters most is for people, REBOPS is we're a nonprofit. We became a nonprofit, a couple of years ago so that we can help people based at the level of their need, not necessarily what they could afford. But there's so many terrific boxing fitness therapy programs throughout the United States. If anybody has Parkinson's or knows somebody with Parkinson's, the first thing they should be asking is, what exercise are you doing? If you're in a wheelchair, what exercise are you doing? If you've already started with dementia, what exercise can we help them do? Because there's two things that all of the research that the Michael J. Fox Foundation has been behind for all these years that have been shown to work when it comes to helping slow and even set back some of the symptoms of Parkinson's, and that is exercise and nutrition. Those are the two big things.
I appreciate it, and those are very important. I mean, my mother had a little gym in her house, and we tried, but we didn't know as much as we know today. Also,
Yeah.
unfortunately, the last 4 years of her life, she went from walking a few miles to the last 2 years of a cane, then a year of the walker, then the
Mhm.
wheelchair, and then bed bound out of nowhere. So even today, sitting here with you, 9/24/2024, I'm still kind of shocked to see,
Right.
why the progression goes so quickly. And I don't blame the doctors. I do blame the disease. So we just have to keep learning from it. And like you said, keep pushing forward. I do want to dedicate today in memory of your mother, because she'll never be forgotten, not just because of me, but thanks, of course, to you. We started something that means the world to me. Obviously, I think and many out there just released a new book or two on other people's journeys. But what means a lot to me, and it's not easy to find, is individuals who lost a loved one due to Parkinson's. I don't think there's enough attention for us out there. And I'm working on a book now, and because we're going to be using your amazing journey. But we started the in memory page if everyone wants to see, again, completely free. Togetherforsharon.com, go to, I think it's about us, or now it's journey, and then in memory. You can share your loved one, but we created this really just to never forget, because I still think my mother matters, and I know she does, and our voice also still matters. And can see we've had a few individuals, about 10. You were one of the first right here, and it means the world again that you shared it. But what I'm finding there is my journey. What I'm finding is, it was easy to get individuals today here with us, but finding the family members of those who we've lost is very, very rare. Either many individuals, I think, kind of door was closed and they don't move on, but they don't feel that their voice might matter much. And I'm here to tell them, along with you by our side, that our voices still mean the world. And that's why I'm excited. It's going to be a tough book. My first book was dedicated to all those today struggling and fighting the disease and their caregivers. But this new one, which won't be out for a few more years, is going to literally be dedicated to people like us who lost a loved one and in their memory. So I always try to thank, because there's only been about 15, 20 people I can even locate, and yours is one that, again, means the world to me. So thanks for that too.
Of course. And you know what? Maybe it's a good thing that it might take a few more years to finish that book, because maybe we'll have a really nice chapter to put into that book about how much closer we got to a cure.
Well, that's the thing. I always kind of not joke, but if we have, I won't stop like you till the cure is at our doorsteps, but I wouldn't mind either stopping this all and being able to rest knowing that no one has to go through what our parents did, uh, or ever feel alone. So if we do have a cure, obviously I'll leave everything out there, but I won't be like 24/7. Like I haven't slept lately.
In the book, in the book I mentioned, please put me out of business.
Yeah.
I was a successful trainer for 40 years. Please
Yes,
put me out of business. But real quick story, you know what though?
please.
What gets me, I've got a gentleman who's a retired doctor who has dealt with the disease about 18 years. And he's at the point now where he uses a walker. And God bless Doc, he's always late when he comes to class. And the amazing thing is that when he gets into class, he's using his walker, and he transitions from one exercise to another, he uses his walker. But one of the exercises that we did yesterday is what's called a big armed walk. Big and exaggerated, big arm motions, big stepping motions. It's one of the things that's actually used as part of an assessment in the Parkinson's protocol. He was actually doing it in between pylons and in between cones without his walker. Without his walker, when he makes up his mind, he still has the physical capability of doing amazing things. He floats like Gene Kelly.
Mhm.
And then the moment the reality of Parkinson's kicks in and he tries to force something, or he tries to make his feet move a certain way, or he tries to get from point A to point B, the festering steps start. And the harder he pushes and the harder he tries, the worse it gets. It's like pushing sand through a funnel for him. The amazing thing is, every time I see him succeed at moves like he did in that big cone walk yesterday, I know he's still got a lot of years left. He's still nowhere near giving up.
Well, those are the inspiring messages and stories that I love to hear, because those are the reasons that, we do what we do.
Yeah.
I think that some days I struggle with my own health and, I kind of feel like giving up, but then see you out there fighting. I love your social media too. I recommend everyone to also follow you. And then that's why I keep going. I did have one more question, and obviously then I want to shift a little more to about gym, which is fun for me. But
Oh,
what's one myth that you kind of, in all your years of experience, that you kind of want to dispel, that gets to you? I know for me, it's, that people think Parkinson's the elderly man disease, and just breaking today, you probably know too, Brett Favre came out, told the world that he's been diagnosed with Parkinson's. So in a way, it's obviously heartbreaking, but it's also a positive for awareness if we could get him on board. And, because there you go, he's not an elderly man, younger gentleman. And also this affects women, young onset, all ages, all people, no, regardless of race, gender, sex. It's I always joke a little saying it's the only topic, unfortunately, that we won't all fight about, because it's not even political. So we all want a cure, but maybe you can kind of touch on one area that you think needs to be dispelled and kind of broken the mold from.
that it is only going to go downhill from here. The fact that you mentioned Brett Favre, I'm a Packer fan. I live in Bear country, and I respect the Bears, but I'm a Packer fan. And Brett and I are almost the same age. We're really, really close in age. And my son tweeted me. He texted me that today, because I did not know it had happened.
Yeah.
And I'd actually put a piece on my blog recently about Bernie Kosar from the Cleveland Browns, who also has Parkinson's and had concussion after concussion after concussion, and traumatic brain stress and disorder. But Parkinson's is the one disease that you personally, because not everybody who plays football gets Parkinson's, you personally did nothing to get. There's nothing that you did to get Parkinson's. Okay, there are some people that they say about cancer. There's some people who say that there's an old saying that says when it comes to cancer, there are some people who will never get cancer and some people who will never survive it. Okay, same thing with Parkinson's. There are some people, no matter what happens, they'll never personally get Parkinson's. But when those who do end up getting Parkinson's, even though there's nothing that you did to get it, it is the one neurological disease that you can do the most about.
Mm.
One of the things that, again, I cover in the book, there's a lifestyle of living that research shows that if you live this lifestyle, if you ate a certain way, and if you live this certain lifestyle, you could literally postpone the onset of symptoms by over 17 years. I saw recently on your show that you had Amy Lavallee, who's amazing. I want to talk about inspiring. And I kind of refer to her a little bit in the book. But she got her first symptoms. I remember reading about her first symptoms as far as the toe twitching and things like that when she was pregnant. Now imagine being a pregnant woman and you've got Parkinson's as a entity that exists inside you. But if you magically had the ability to postpone the onset of the actual symptoms by 17 and a half years, that's like the difference between giving birth to your baby and watching them graduate high school first. Parkinson's is the one thing neurologically, even though it's the fastest growing disease, it's the one that people can do the most about.
I appreciate it. And it's funny because I didn't bring it up, but you had mentioned, well, because we're talking about football. I've always been a basketball fan more, but Bernie Kosar, I didn't even know he had Parkinson's until just a month ago. So we've
Yeah.
been talking. I actually have his text. He texted me the other day, trying to
Yeah.
get him on the show, but he said, George, traveling this week, but like to catch up, possibly for interview. But he hope is able to come on, because like you said, having these incredible athletes, even though I'm sad to meet them this way, they also make a big statement or splash in the world, and really can help outreach with Parkinson's. I'm attending something called the Brain Bowl. It's usually in Florida, South Florida, and it's more geared for Alzheimer's, but this is the first year they're gearing it to Parkinson's. And Tim Tebow is speaking, and his father has Parkinson's, or mother. I think it's the father, but it's just in a way, it's sad, I think, because just this month or two, it's becoming a national thing, whether it's the president they're speaking about. And I don't get into the politics, but
No, no.
even it's at the national world like tips of their mouths now because they're hearing the word Parkinson disease. Also, Ryan Reynolds, the famous actor, just kind of, I don't like saying came out, but came out in the world discussing about delusions and hallucinations like my mother had because his father had Parkinson's. So it's kind of getting out there more, but in a sad, way, because more and more individuals are gaining diagnosis. So just thought it was interesting because of the timing. So I appreciate you sharing all that with us, and it's so important. We have a show now on sports and Parkinson's and how you can slow the progression. And it's just amazing because, sports is part of all of our lives, whether we're sick, diagnosed, caregivers, really can kind of help us mental health too, out of the world for a few moments. So I wanted
Yeah.
to also note that, can you let us know when the book's available? I'm going to put a link on how everyone out there can buy it directly, I hope. But if I know it's not out yet, so when can we all expect it to be on the shelves, the internet shelves?
The book is scheduled for release and launch on Amazon October 14th.
Sure.
And it's starting off initially as both a paperback and an ebook. I'm working on the audiobook. Man, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, need to
That's a
go. Mine was great because I went on Amazon. They have a thing, you put a bid out and people will respond. The guy has like a movie voice because no one wants to hear my voice. So it was
oh,
pretty. So he did it all. The problem is my wife's name is Grether, Grether, and
no, he didn't.
he didn't pronounce it right. So he had to redo the 6 hours. He did it for free, but you would probably think you should probably confirm that right before. And I did. So I don't anyway.
Well, I plan on, honestly, I've done a number of podcasts myself, and I plan on doing, I've been working on it. I plan on doing it myself because, as you mentioned, I wrote the book in a very conversational way, and that's deliberate. It looks a little different than most people are accustomed to. And with the way it's laid out and the way it's formatted and in a conversational tone, I did it to get people's attention because, honestly, my fear is if I don't work hard to get their attention now, Parkinson's will get their attention when it's too late.
Well, you have the radio voice, so you'll be great.
I've got the perfect face for radio, right? That's what they say.
The voice. I didn't say. I love you. Anyway, back to the interview and something more, a little bit. I always say more fun, but the rest has been fun. Just kind of
Good.
tough topic. So, can you list 3 words that describe who you are?
Oh,
That's the number one answer, actually.
okay. All right. I'm systematic. I am disciplined, and I am faith-filled.
I appreciate it.
I love God. I know God loves me. I am disciplined because I'm scared not to be disciplined. All right. And as such, I set up systems because I don't have willpower. I want chocolate. I want bad, unhealthy things. I want Doritos just like everybody else does. So I have to set up systems. So systematic, disciplined, and faith-filled.
I appreciate it. What is one moment or one most memorable moment that stands out through most of your work with awareness that you can share?
Ooh, there was a local chancellor of a local college here in the Midwest who he'd already experienced a lot of what they call involution. In other words, he was very shut into himself in a lot of ways, and he had the beginnings of dementia, and he had physical limitations, and his wife brought him to class. He's one of only, in 8 years of doing this, he's one of only 2 people that I've lost with Parkinson's. Both of them are related to COVID. Anyways, and when you looked at him because of the masked face and the lack of emotion, I think a lot of people thought his dementia was worse than it was. But when I would look at him and then refer to his beautiful wife, who I could tell after all these decades still thought that he was the bee's knees, it took him a second, but he'd turn his head and he'd tilt and he would smile, and it slowly developed. But you could tell that that man who used his entire life using his brain, instructor and as a chancellor, he was still in there. We had to be slow and not force Parkinson's and give him a chance to come out. I will never forget the moments he looked at me with such amazing, he was feeling a little frisky for his wife. I got to be honest with you.
Thanks for sharing that. And it shows how much of an impact, a positive you've made over the years and still continue to today. and well into the future. So thank you for that. Here's an important area question I have, and it's kind of to bring out the individuals behind the scenes. Obviously, you're the face of the show, so I want to thank you. But also, who helps you during times of struggle? It's obviously, your mom. And then today, it's not always easy because even though you're doing great things, like you just said, some individuals who you probably formed a great bond with have passed. So, who helps you during times of struggle? And the second part is we're both caregivers. What tips can you give caregivers who might be listening?
If you don't mind, I'll handle that one first.
Please.
Anybody who's out there caregiving, please understand that the person that you're trying to help wants to be able to do everything that they need to do. It's just that this sounds cliche. It's just that their brain's not working right. Okay. Everything about Parkinson's is dopamine based, and everything about our drive systems, everything about our desire systems, everything about our chutzpah and our willingness to get up and go, okay, is dopamine based. So it's not that they aren't listening, it's not that they don't want to, and it's not that they're lazy. It's just that willpower will not overcome a chemical lack and a chemical imbalance. So be patient. When it comes to Parkinson's, again, if you try and force something, it's literally like trying to push sand through a funnel. You're just going to cause a log jam. It's just going to make it worse. And don't try and do it all on your own. As far as who really helps me, I got to give a shout out to my son, my 36-year-old. He's my tech guy out in Phoenix, Arizona. And he is my biggest cheerleader, but he's also my biggest critic. And I know his name is Corey. I know that I can always trust Corey 100%, not to be right, but to be well-intended and to have my best interest at heart and believe in me. Dylan, my mid kid, is an amazing. Danny, I love you. But when it comes to the person who is always there going, come on, Jim, you can figure this out. You can do this. I got to give that to Corey.
Thank you. And we send our love to Corey, the whole family, and thank them too for us, because I know that even through times of tough situation, having that support is very important. I wouldn't be who I am today or even made it this far as caregiver or advocate if it wasn't for my wife and children.
Oh, you guys are amazing. You two are amazing.
Thanks. I'll tell her. She's usually here, but she's went to pick up my daughter.
By the way, I love my wife. Bye, baby. Hi, Carrie. Sorry I didn't mention you in those three. I'm gonna get in trouble for that one.
We'll send our love to her too. It's a family in this fight for a cure. So as we wrap up a little, I do have some other really important questions. One is, if you were asked to write a script to a movie about your life story, what would you call it?
Oh man.
That's why we don't give these before, because it's more fun.
Honestly, indie. I don't have tattoos, but if I did, I want to get a tattoo and put it on my knuckles. INDY. I'm not done yet. As long as I'm still here, as long as God hasn't come me home, there's still work for me to do, even if I haven't figured it out. So honestly, I would call it indie. I'm not done yet. I've still got work to do.
I appreciate it. I love that. And also, who is your hero and inspiration?
I've got, you know what? I've got to give a lot of thanks to Sylvester Stallone. At a very young age, I got to see Rocky II as my first. And there's just something about that underdog story that's universal. And the fact that he never quit, even though the whole Hollywood world and industry said, you know what, we're going to put somebody else in this role. Give me money. We'll give you all kinds of money. We'll buy your script. And for those of you who've looked up his story, he says, no. He says, this is my heart. This is my soul. This is me. I'm going to hang on. I'm going to do it. That's the same situation with me and Parkinson's. It is a slow process. And unfortunately, it's a fight I can't win. You know this. I can't bring about the cure. I can't win, but I won't ever quit. And that's the underdog. And so I would give a shout out to Sylvester Stallone on that.
I love him too. I mean, when I had my fourth back surgery, I was out for a while, and I watched all of his reality show, and then the first season of the other show that's out now, and I love him. But the shocking thing is, I found out he has 7 back surgeries. So it's like,
oh yeah,
oh my God. So
but he brought most of those on himself. He didn't do that, George. He did.
Yeah.
He did.
He's actually also in the same county. He lives just like 20 minutes from here. I've seen his house. It's on those boat tours, but I've never been invited yet. So Sylvester, Mr. Stallone, if you're watching, Jim and I would like an invitation. And we love you. So maybe he could help promote
Mr.
awareness.
Stallone, get George in there first. Get George there first because he's your neighbor. We got to take care of neighbor.
Know what I would be doing? I'd be asking him to help me promote awareness for Parkinson's and a cure. That would be all I asked him. So,
and you know what? I hate to say this. There's no guarantee that he's not going to get it or his wife. So, we all need to do it. We all need to do that.
Well, I appreciate everything. I have one final question. If you could leave the Parkinson's community today with some words of encouragement, what would they be? And again, remember everyone, please support Jim, not just on the book, but all he does, because I'll be following him along as well. Facebook is one of the biggest ones I think he likes to use, but you could leave us with one, some type of encouragement. I need it too right now, so take it away.
If you have Parkinson's, you are not defined by it. I know that sounds cliche, but you have so much still that is left within you that can get better. It might only get better 1%. It might only get better 2%. It might get better 10%. But what matters most, if you have Parkinson's, do not fight this alone. Reach out. The disease wins when we fight it alone. It's like an entity that wants to isolate people and cut them off from the outside. And that's a problem with dopamine, is because without dopamine, we don't want to reach out to people. If you have Parkinson's, please don't fight this alone. If you don't have Parkinson's, and if you don't know anybody who does have Parkinson's, please don't let them fight alone. Become part of community. Yeah, buy the book. That's what it's about. But what matters most is that please get involved in community, because I hate to say it, unpredictable, unpreventable, and uncurable, there is no guarantee that it won't be you or someone you love next.
Well, I appreciate it. And I'm really grateful for your friendship. I have a little message for you and everyone listening. We love you. We support you. We care a lot about you, and you're never alone. I, along with Jim, will advocate for you. And together, I feel our voices are so much stronger. And I always say I'm just getting started, because even before we met, there were tough days in everyone's life, but I had my own. And then I see your, posts or your work with Parkinson's, and it really honestly motivates me to keep fighting. So I'm so grateful again for the time today, for your friendship. And I just feel that we have a lot of important things still to come together, and we're really excited for the future book. We'll be putting your interview in memory of your mother in it. It's really dedicated to those we've lost due to Parkinson's, and I don't ever want them to be forgotten. And again, please pick up a copy, and I believe next month, so very, very soon, 10/15, right? 10/15.
October 14th, October 14th.
And I'll hopefully add it into our website right in the next few days. So thanks again, Jim. Thanks everyone for listening. This has been another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son, George. Please share this. Please stay tuned. We have a lot of fight left, and with Jim leading the way, I know we're going to have some great success. If it's not a cure yet, I do feel confident it'll be very soon. And, we won't stop till the cure is at our doorsteps for everybody around the world. So thanks again, Jim, and thanks everyone for listening. We love you, and keep fighting. Thanks.
Thank you, George. Got your back, brother.